Hello and welcome to Female Cricket Live. Match number 21 and match number 22 of the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup were played on 22nd of March. Now, before we start with our discussion for today, let us have a quick look at those two matches. So, match number 21 was played between South Africa and Australia went on to win that match by 5 wickets. Batting first, South Africa posted a competitive score of 271 for 5 in 50 overs, thanks to Laura Woolford, who top scored with 90, registering her fourth consecutive half century in this World Cup. In reply, Australia chased down the target in 45.2 overs to win the match by 5 wickets. Captain McGlynn top scored with an unbeaten 135 for Australia, while for South Africa it was Shabnim Ismail and Chloe Tryon who picked up 2 wickets each. Now, after that match, we could see that Australia have won all the 6 matches in this World Cup so far, while South Africa have won 4 out of the 5 matches. Then we had match number 22 also being played on 22nd of March. It was played between India and Bangladesh, which India went on to win by 110 runs. Batting first, India posted a respectable score of 229 for 7 in 50 overs, thanks to Yastika Bhatia, who top scored with 50. While for Bangladesh, it was Ritu Moni who was the pick of the bowlers as she picked up 3 wickets. In reply, Bangladesh could only manage to score 119 as they were bowled out in 40.3 overs, thanks to Sneh Rana, who wreaked havoc with the ball, picking up 4 wickets. For Bangladesh, it was Salma Khatun who top scored with 32 runs. After the India-Bangladesh match, we could see that India have won 3 out of the 6 matches, while Bangladesh have won 1 out of the 5 matches. Now, ahead of us, we have match number 23 that is being played between South Africa and West Indies. The match will be played tomorrow, that is 24th of March, at the Basin Reserve in Wellington, and it will start at 3:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time. So you can catch all the live action on Star Sports and Disney Plus Hotstar. Now, to talk more about this exciting contest and, of course, a do or die match for the West Indian team, I have with me Dinesha Devnarayan, Lesogo Pui, Krisania Young, Dr. Anand Ramprasad, Dhanush Lavanya, and Urvi Shah. So, a brief introduction of all our guests today. So, Dinesha Devnarayan is a former captain of South Africa women's cricket team, and since 2020, she has been the head coach of South Africa women's under-19 team. Then we have Lesoko Pui, who likes to be called as Lee. So Lee is an avid cricket writer and a seasoned cricket presenter. She was also the team manager for South Africa when they toured India in 2019. Then we have our Caribbean friends in Krisania Young, who is a Caribbean cricket writer, cricket analyst, and chief editor at Mostly Cricket. We also have Dr. Anand Ramprasad, who is a columnist at Trinidad Guardian and has a specialization in sociology of sport. Then we have Dhanush Lavanya, who is a content writer at Female Cricket. And finally, we have Urvi Shah, who is a mental health facilitator and an avid cricket writer. So I welcome all of you to Female Cricket Live.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so couldn't have asked for a better thing than this, than a full house before this exciting contest between South Africa and West Indies. Of course, a do or die for West Indies, and probably yet another game for the South African team. And of course, I'm sure they would want to get that win against West Indies. All right. So, Dinesha, to begin with you, South Africa played against Australia the other day. South Africa really batted well that day, scoring 271 in 50 overs. But unfortunately, they could not defend 272 runs against Australia. So, what are your thoughts on South Africa's performance in that match, and what do you think could be the areas that they need to improve going into the World Cup ahead?
Yeah, I do think it was a competitive total that we put on the board. I mean, if you look at 271 opposed to our other games, we made light work very difficult. But having said that, while we're on the batting topic, I still believe we should have got to 290, 300 if we were a little bit proactive in the thinking. Even Wolfie, she scored bulk of the runs again for us. But if you look at the strike rate, 66, we want to win the fixture, right? If we won against Australia, then we'll say, then the favorites will turn. So ideally, then I would have liked her to push on a little bit more. Then Sune came in, she batted fantastically. Both got out at crucial times. And then I was hoping to see maybe the likes of Chloe coming in before Mignon Dupree. I thought the way Kapi and Chloe batted towards the end was outstanding. What they did there, I think they just needed 4 or 5 overs to themselves more, and we could have got to that 300 mark. I mean, if you look 271 for 5, and we set in score, you could see that it is sort of like a safe target for me. I think the girls are proud to get 270, but with the caliber of players that we have in that playing 11, ideally I would have liked to see a little bit more proactive thinking and gotten our big hitters coming in a lot earlier. And then yeah, I think it's visible and it's obvious to see where we where we let ourselves down, and that's the fielding. I mean, maybe in the other teams we could have let it slide because it wouldn't have hurt us. But I mean, Australia chased down that total with technically no pressure. We've dropped catches, and they did it without Elise Perry. So I hope that we take all of these things into consideration, because if we have the want and the will to win this World Cup, we've got to make sure we clean up on those areas. Uh, Catching or fielding in general has been a little bit disappointing, especially in the catch in front in the Women's World Cup. But when you go up against the number one world ranked team in the world and you have aspirations to win this World Cup, there's no room for that. There's no error to fault yourself in the field. We knew it was going to be a good contest. If our catches had been taken, maybe we would have produced a different result, or maybe the match would have been a lot closer than it was. But yeah, there's lots of positives to take out of it. I take nothing away from it. I think my passion just comes from we could have done better. And I think I've been speaking about this a lot, is that we look for that 1%, and we faulted, we hurt ourselves in the fielding. And I do believe we could have been better with the batting as well.
Yeah, like Dinesha mentioned, Laura Wolfert, it's like the full gun blazing in the whole World Cup, scoring bulk of runs for South Africa. Which brings me to my next question, that we know it is very difficult to keep her quiet, right? Like every time I have seen her, I'm just like, it's impossible to keep her quiet when she's on song. So, Krisania, I would like to know from your side, what are your thoughts on what West Indies should plan of if they have to keep someone like Laura Wolfert quiet tomorrow?
Well, West Indies plan has been going in the can. No, they make plans and then they don't bat well and then they have to change all of it. But all things remaining equal later this evening and hoping that Shamila Connell is okay. It's just they would just return. I expect West Indies to return to Shamila Connell and Chanel Henry at the top of the order, looking to just swing the ball away. Try to be more attacking than they were in the first few games of the World Cup, go straighter lines and try to bring the swing into play rather than starting wide and then swinging the ball away even more because that's very easy to negotiate.
Okay. So I think let us hope that Shamilia Connell is well and probably she's able to take the field against South Africa tomorrow. So Lee, I think Dinesha mentioned about South Africa's fielding. I think there were five dropped catches, if I'm not wrong, in that Australia game. And before that, South Africa had played four matches and they just had four catches in total dropped in those four matches. But in one match against Australia, they had five catches. So, do you think it was the pressure that got to them, or it was just a bad day on the field for South Africa?
Yeah, I think I need to just echo what Denisha said, that the fielding, we need to put in extra work as far as the fielding is concerned. But I will say that I think it was a bit of pressure because obviously when you go to play against Australia, especially because I think the last time that we played against Australia was at the T20 World Cup, and that was in 2020. So we haven't played against Australia in a while. And so I think the ladies wanted to just be able to see how, where the competition is and where the strength versus strength is. And I think maybe there were a bit of nerves and a bit of pressure coming into that game. And so I would imagine that as far as the fielding is concerned, maybe the nerves did kick in. But I think that there's still a lot of work that needs to go into the fielding. And as you know, that famous line that catches win matches. And for the fact that we were unable to get that much crucial catch of Meg Lanning. I think we dropped her at when she was still 7 runs in. And so imagine if we would have gotten that catch of Meg Lanning early on, we would have restricted her for getting that 135 runs that led to Australia's win at the end of the day. And so we understand the importance of fielding. We understand the importance of catching, because that could be that 1% that gets us the win at the end of the day. And so, yeah, pressure at the end of the day. But I think I will commend South Africa for the way that they batted, even if there's still a lot of work that needs to go in. I think we need to congratulate Laura Wolfhard as well as Sunay Luz for the way that they held the innings like that. And even at the back end as well, as Denisha said, it was Chloe finishing it off for us. but we could have gotten obviously more runs. But congratulations to the ladies for the way that they played, and I don't mind this loss, because I think sometimes, especially on a World Cup stage like that, you want to be able to at least lose one game, because that gives you the opportunity to go back to the drawing board and be able to see what we could chop and change moving into the semis. So I think kudos to South Africa. I think at the end of the day, we understand that we're not too far off from Australia, because I think we've been putting Australia on a pedestal, thinking that they are this really strong side that we need to make sure that all factors work on that day. And even if for us all factors did not work, but at least we have an idea of where we are, and should we meet them at the semifinals, or rather the finals, then we know that they're a team that we're likely to beat based on how we played against them in yesterday's game. So, yeah, kudos to South Africa. I just hope that the next game that they play against Australia with on the finals, then all the factors work accordingly on that day, especially the fielding, especially the catches.
Yeah, this reminds me of every time we do a preview for West Indies, Dr. Anand would always mention that catches win matches. And talking about pressure, I will continue on what Lee was mentioning, that South Africa did feel the pressure playing against Australia, maybe putting them on a pedestal that they have been on the go. So, Dr. Anand, I would like to know your thoughts on the similar situation happening with West Indies. Like, they might put South Africa on a pedestal because they have just lost one out of all the games that they have played, and they have been doing pretty well, considering West Indies, on the other hand, has been having a rocky road to walk on. So, do you feel that kind of pressure is going to play on West Indies' mind tomorrow?
Well, coming into this tournament, the West Indies and South Africa have played around 8 matches over the last year. And South Africa have gotten the better of West Indies. They won in the Caribbean 4-1, and they lost. They also won in South Africa 2-1. So I think that is something that the team will be aware of, that the fact that we have played South Africa at least 8 matches, and they have gotten the better of the West Indies. But it would have also meant that they would be going into this game knowing the strengths and weaknesses of the South African batters, the bowlers as well. And so that is something that they can draw upon. I think going into this game as well, they need to forget about the last 2 games against Bangladesh and Pakistan. Their back is against the wall. And sometimes when your back is against the wall, the only way you can come out is come out fighting. And this is a do or die situation. And for West Indies, they have to win the game. And even if they win, the net run rate can still be an issue. But I still think that going ahead into this game, you forget about the last 2 games and just focus on winning the game, playing to their strengths, ensuring that the 3 aspects of their game is clicking at the same time: the batting, the bowling, and the fielding. Cricket is a simple game. You gotta score runs, you gotta take wickets, you're gonna take your catches, and also prevent runs from being scoring. And I think going into this game, they just have to make sure that they bring all of it into this game. And it is a do or die game for them, and they need to bring their A game to this match for that against South Africa. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. You just go out there and play cricket, and you maximize your batting, you maximize your bowling, you maximize your fielding, and hopefully the results will go the way you want it to be.
Probably, I think Dr. Anand has given a very good message that don't take that pressure of do or die. Just probably West Indies can look back at match number 1 and match number 2 that they played against England and New Zealand, and how they were able to get the better of them going into the match. So, Dhanush, let me ask you that West Indies, though they started off their World Cup campaign on a positive note, but towards the business end of the tournament, we could see that they had their issues with the spin when they faced Pakistan and Bangladesh. Now, considering the fact that West Indies are going to play South Africa, which are more of a pace dominant attack, do you think South Africa can bring in an additional spinner, say in Malabar tomorrow, given the fact that West Indian batters have been little vulnerable to the spinners?
Yeah, definitely. There can be a chance of bringing in Malaba into the side, but I feel that the South African unit, like altogether, they are pretty much set and they don't want to do any changes. Maybe bring back Masabasa class instead of the other player. I'm not getting the name, unfortunately. So yeah, so that's the only change is what I feel if South Africa ever does ever thinks of making a change. But West Indies and when it comes to South Africa's approach tomorrow, I feel that they will be pretty much continuing the same way. It was just a bad game against Australia. Australia is a team that is that has been in a whole different level altogether. They have been performing extremely well. Their batting is something that is untouchable. No bowling unit on this in this World Cup can have been able to stand up to the batting of Australia. Their top four is in the top six of the ICC rankings, if you see. So it was just a bad match, is what I feel. It was an off day for the Pacers, Marizan Kaap, Shabnim Ismail, and Ayobonga Kaka. But they are seasoned players. They are 4, 5, and 6 in the ICC rankings that came out today. So yeah, they have the capacity in them, and South Africa, they have to just stick to their basics, and that is what they have done till now. And I just hope there is no another close game for them. And they are playing in Wellington tomorrow, so they have a good idea of how to play in Wellington because they put up 271 on the board when they faced Australia a couple of days ago. So as far as West Indies is concerned, I feel that Wellington is something that they have to get more into. They have to adapt as quickly as possible because they just scored 130 against Australia the previous week when they played in Wellington. So I feel that it is important game for West Indies. The net run rate is horrible for them. They are the worst in the tournament. So I feel it's really a big game for West Indies. But for South Africa as well, if they win tomorrow, they will seal their spot in the semifinals.
Yeah. So I was reading on the pitch report for tomorrow, Dhanush, and as you mentioned that spinners and pacers will have their own say on the pitch, and that South Africa has already played on this pitch against Australia, and they are very familiar to the conditions. Krisania, I would like to know your thoughts that pitch is expected to get a little slower with time as the game progresses. So, in case West Indies happens to win the toss tomorrow, what would be a better choice, knowing that it is an important game for West Indies?
Well, they tend, the West Indies, they tend to bat first when they won the toss in this tournament, but it's not really been working out these last few games. You saw in the Caribbean against South Africa, I think they tried to do the same thing. They tried to bat first and then defend it, and then later on in the five-match series when it wasn't working out, they tried something different. They then tried to bowl first and then chase. So I would say that the West Indies would bat first, but because it's not working out, I wouldn't be surprised if they won the toss and decided to have a bowl.
So just want to make this conversation take a different turn, maybe. So we have Dinesha and Lee from South Africa. Then we have me, Dhanush, and Urvi from India. And we have Kristania and Dr. Anand from West Indies. So probably most of us know that England, if they win both the matches, right, against Pakistan and Bangladesh, they are going to seal that third place in the semi-finals. And it is going to be a tough between West Indies and India. And the only wall that we have is Dinesha and Lee, if I can take that liberty of saying that they represent South Africa. So, Dinesha, my question to you is, who do you think could be a fierce competitor, India or West Indies for South Africa?
Sorry, I'm having mic issues. um, yeah, I think. Look, if I firstly, I'm a fan of women's cricket. Any women's cricket, I'm a fan. Right? I live in South Africa. Yes, I will always back the girls. But if I look at West Indies, India, and the last 12 months or the last even 2 years, let's go 24 months. South Africa has dominated West Indies a lot, but the thing with West Indies is that you can never write them off. You can't say, no, it's an easy game. I mean, if those players, and they have world class players in there, they have match winners in there, if they come off on the day, I think back to the first game we played here in Wonders, and Deandra Dotson got that 160 odd. I mean, if she does something like that there, it's going to be very difficult for us to go up against a force like that. Then if you look at India, where I think they as well, they got it actually surprised me with the results that they get at a World Cup because I think they a quality team. You know, they have so much of talent and they have match winners, they have big match temperament in certain players. that I think single-handedly they can win games. Um, but if I had to choose between the two teams based on relevance and where we are right now, I would think that India would give South Africa a run for their money if they get into that top four, and hopefully we win tomorrow. Um, but that's just based. If I look at the playing 11, I think India will have a lot more um, match winners and contributors to the game than what the West Indies will. Because I can see they rely heavily a lot on Taylor, Dot, and Matthews, where India has a lot more players like that there that can contribute to the game. But like I said, either or, I can't write off either of the team. But if I had to choose one, I'll go with India. Will be a little bit more for competition in terms of getting a good match in. Will be India. Yeah.
Interesting question, Julian, and very interesting answer out there. I'll just pull the conversation back to tomorrow's game here again. So, Lee, I would like to know from your end. Tomorrow, we have some like really good teams when it comes to fielding, right? We have some very athletic fielding efforts, and we are seeing like so many beautiful catches from both the ends. So, do you see tomorrow's match as something which is high scoring and a thriller because they both the teams are quite resilient in their approach towards the game.
Just repeat the last part for me.
Yeah, I said like both the teams are quite resilient in their approach towards the game.
Yeah, no, definitely. You're right. We've been seeing some really good fielding from both teams. I think in the opening game against New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken, we saw Deandra Dotton being superwoman and getting one of the most brilliant catches that we've seen in the tournament. And the previous game against Australia, we've seen our own Minion Dupree in the boundary lines really getting a really, really blinder of a catch. And I think those are the kind of fielding that we want to be seeing. And I'm hoping that both teams will be able to display that kind of fielding tomorrow when we witness the game between South Africa and West Indies. But I think there's definitely going to be resilience from both teams. I think West Indies, as they're coming in, of course, they're still hurting. They probably want to close the wound and be able to make sure that they potentially retain their position for the semi-final spot. And with South Africa, they want to be coming in from a loss against Australia, making sure that all the other factors are working coherently on the day, and so that they could secure the next win, so that they could make sure that they also have a semi-final spot. So both teams are going to be rearing in. They're going to be playing their good kind of cricket that we want to be expecting to see from both teams. And I trust that it would be a really, really good game. Hopefully we'll see some 4s and 6s. We'll be able to see some, high scores. And we'll probably be able we'll be sitting at the edge of our seats and biting our nails, because you know how this World Cup has been, right? Literally sitting at the edge of our seats. So I'm looking forward to a really good game to go tomorrow against South Africa and West Indies.
So I think out of the 8 teams that we have in this World Cup, these two teams, basically South Africa and West Indies, they have given the maximum number of nail-biting thrillers. So I know that probably Lee, Dinesha, Krisanya, and Anand don't want to see nail-biters, but yes, we three of us at least want to see some thrilling contest between West Indies and South Africa. So all right, so Dr. Anand, you mentioned that South Africa and West Indies, they played just before the World Cup as well in a 4-match ODI series, which of course South Africa won by 2-1 margin. But do you think West Indies probably have found out the ways to beat South Africa?
I would hope so, that they would have used the recent series in South Africa as well as the series in the West Indies to have a better understanding of the South African players, so that when they are bowling, they know exactly how to bowl to the South African batters, as well as when they are batting, how to face up to the attack. And I think that one of the plus going into this game is that they would not be under a heavy spin examination, because I would think that based on all the teams, that South Africa probably has the least effective spin attack compared to all the other teams, and the heavy emphasis on fast bowling, which will be what I think our batters will be looking forward to, where the ball is going to be coming on to the bat so they can play their strokes. So I think that is one of the things that the team will be probably more comfortable with going into this game, knowing that they're not going to be under that heavy spin examination that they would have experienced, especially in the last 2 games against Pakistan and Bangladesh, and they fell short with it. So I think those would be some of the features that they'll be looking at. The fact that they would have played South Africa um, in the four-match series and then in the West Indies, they would have learned a lot from those games. And this is where your cricket analysts will be coming in and helping in terms of understanding. And also the fact that they will not be under that heavy spin examination unless Malaba plays. But just to go back, I think that, I like to say with West Indian system that it depends on which side of the bed we wake up on that day. And I'm hoping that for this game, we wake up on the right side of the bed and we get everything going. And you don't get a nail biter. From a West Indian perspective, we don't want a nail biter. Yes, we want to see all the fours and sixes, but that comes from West Indies. And then they bowl South Africa out cheaply because they need to keep an eye on the net run rate.
I don't know about the fours and sixes that will be hit when South Africa and West Indies play each other, but there are plenty of fours and sixes that are being hit by Dr. Anand Kristania for West Indies and by Dinesh and Lee for South Africa. All right, so before we close the discussion, maybe a couple of more questions I have. Lee, I think in the previous conversation that we had before the South Africa Australia game, I think you said that probably Lara Goodall can make her way to number three, and she did, replacing Tasmin Brits. But unfortunately, she was not able to contribute big. So, do you think Lara Goodall will be there again in the playing 11, or again South Africa will go back to Tasmin Brits?
Yeah, so firstly, I'm just happy with my prediction because
Yeah.
at least sometimes my predictions are right. I just had put myself in Coach Hilton's position, and I knew that he's a coach that sometimes wants to give an opportunity to other players, and I think that's why he decided to bring in a Lara Goodall. Even if I kind of felt like it was premature, I think they should have waited to bring Lara Goodall against India. As I said, they brought her in, and like I said, I think it's premature, but I wasn't quite surprised at how she played. Having to, because I think they should have continued with Tasman Brits, because I think Tasman Brits was finding her rhythm and her flow, and I think if we had included her in the previous game, she would have maybe done better compared to even the previous games of maybe. Just being so poor with the dot balls, and so I expected Tasman Brits to be given another opportunity so that she could just continue finding her rhythm. But even if they brought in a Lara Goodall, they probably will continue giving Lara Goodall an opportunity, because I think it would be unfair to immediately take her out for the next game against West Indies. But also you think to yourself, if we remember the series before the World Cup with West Indies, Tasman Brits is the one that was given an opportunity to come back. I think Lara Goodall only got one game, and then after that, they gave it to Tasman Brits. And so I think we will have to wait and see. But I think that Lara Goodall will continue playing in the next game. Hopefully, she'll have a better game tomorrow with West Indies. And let's hope that she gets those runs that she desperately needs for herself, but also what the team requires from her at that number three position. Because one thing that I continue to talk about is that that number three position is most important, and unfortunately it has not been clicking the way that we need to see it at the number three for South Africa. And so hopefully Laura Goodall will be able to do that against West Indies.
Right. Let us see who gets the go tomorrow, whether it is Tasman Brits or Lara Goodall for South Africa. All right, so before we close this discussion, my favorite question is predictions. So, Krisania, I would like to put you in spot first, because we know that you're pretty good with your predictions. So, number one will be the score, and of course, who could win the match.
I'm not touching the second one, Julie. I don't know who will win the match. But for the score predictions, I'm not. We're expecting the pitch to slow up a bit, but probably not that much. So I'd still say in the region of 260, because the only team that did an injustice to the wicket were the West Indies themselves with the 131 in that game against Australia. So I'm still thinking in the region of 260, 270. With regards to who will win the match and pressure, I'm saying I don't know who will win the game. But the West Indies, did you see them come out to try and defend 131 against Australia? They did not do it, but they were hyped. They did defend the 140 against Bangladesh. They were hyped. They're not a team lacking in confidence. And although they lost the series 2-1 to South Africa in South Africa, it could have been 2-2 had the rain not intervened in the first one day international. This West Indies side, Dottin got her highest score against South Africa in that series. In the Caribbean, Rashada Williams got her highest score in the series in South Africa. Connell got career best figures. So there's a lot of history there, and it could go either way. We're just hoping that the West Indies will turn up later this season.
I think as Chrisania has mentioned about Rashada Williams and Deandra Doughton, of course, scoring that 150 not out also against South Africa. So I assume that the Caribbeans love playing against the Proteas. So let us see what happens in the match tomorrow. All right. So Dinesha, your quick predictions, score, and of course the team who could win.
Yeah, I'm looking for a high run contest here. So if we can get to 280, 290, I'll be happy. Either side can get it. But South Africa is going to win this one. Hopefully they wounded or they hurt enough where Lozelle gets 100, Wolfie gets 100, and all of the managers come to the party and score. So let's hope for that. I just want a high scoring match. And I do want a nail biter actually. But it has to go in South Africa.
I think these two teams played a super over also, if I'm not wrong, in the
No,
bilateral series.
Yes, they did.
Two,
They did.
two in the last 10 months.
Yes, so let us hope for the third one that we get to see, and of course the first of this World Cup. Lee doesn't want to see a nail bite, super over
No,
rather.
no, no.
I doubt that we will have a super over. And let me tell you why. And that's because if you remember the series that South Africa and West Indies played here in South Africa, we didn't have Liz Ali, we didn't have Marizan Cup. And so those two players are coming back, and so they make a huge difference, right, in the team composition. And so I don't think that is going to go to a super over. And what I'm hoping for the next game is that we win the toss, we bat first, we put up such a high score, 290, and make sure that we bowl West Indies by 260, 270. This is what I'm hoping for. And so I'm hoping that Ayabonga Kaka as well will be clinical with the ball. And she'll have, a great game at the office tomorrow, because as we remember that when they played against West Indies here, I think she got a fifer at one of the games. And so I'm hoping that she'll have a good game as well against West Indies. But we're definitely going to win this one, hands down. Whether Deandra Doughton comes to the party or not, or Stephanie Taylor, I think we're going to win this one.
I think the match has already started 10 hours early, I feel. Thanks to Lee, Krisania, Dinesh, and Dr. Anand. All right. So, Dr. Anand, your predictions, because Lee has given some strong predictions. So, what do you think?
I love my South African colleagues' optimism. I really love it. Well, and so I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to say that I'm hoping that the West Indies come to the game with their A game, and they give it all. They provide the batting, the bowling, and the feeling that they need to deliver as one package. As Coach Walsh would have said before the tournament, we do have the complete package. So I think we want to see this complete package deliver. I would like West Indies to bat first. They get a huge score and bowl South Africa out as cheaply as possible, because in the back of my mind, we need to work on that net run rate as well, so that if we can hurt South Africa, one winning but also denting the net run rate, that is going to play into the hands of West Indies becoming part of that semi-final team. Group. So I'm not looking for any nail biter. Yes, I want a big score, but the score has to be done by the West Indies, and then leave South Africa to battle with India to make another thriller to determine the fourth spot.
Okay, so I think we already have 4 centurions here, thanks to Dinesha, Lee, Krisania, and Dr. Anand. Let us hope we get some more centurions in the match between South Africa and West Indies. All right, so it was amazing talking to all of you about this exciting contest that we are going to witness between South Africa and West Indies tomorrow. That is 24th of March. The match will be played at the Basin Reserve in Wellington, and it will start at 3:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time. And all the fans can catch the live action on Star Sports and Disney Plus Hotstar. And we'll be back again shortly at 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time to preview the match between England and Pakistan. So do join us for our conversation at 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time and send us your questions using hashtag Female Cricket Live. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye bye.